Um, so, as I've mentioned, I found God 8 months ago, and I've I'm going to go into depth on my Bible studies. And what I can say is, 8 months ago, I met God, and He told me to go public with my life story, and told me a couple of things which made me really think about life and the way we conduct ourselves. And one thing He said to me is, none of us are worthy to judge, because none of us know what the next person is going through. Hence, I am sharing my story so that people can see who I am, what I've endured, and then at the same time think about how we deal with people as a whole, because ultimately we are all a part of God, and we are all His children. He makes it clear in Matthew 5 where He says He makes the rain fall in the good and the bad. So we have no right to judge one another whatsoever. It's God's duty, and He will do. He will definitely do it. I can tell you that the Bible says that for if judgment starts at the house of God, how much worse for the non-believers. So God will judge every single person. I've read the Bible in the last 7 months. Basically what God had told me in my vision where I saw Him, He told me, He said to me, George, you have a standard 7, which I have. I'm not shy to say that, because yes, it's a piece of paper, and most people stare at the piece of paper and they think that the paper determines your outcome, and I'm a testimony to it's not true, because I have a standard 7, and like I say, I have a small business. I am I'm not well off, but given where I come from, I do believe that I'm heading in the right direction. And with me fearing God the way I do and putting Him first in everything that I do trust His word. And He says, seek the kingdom first and I will add the rest unto you. And I'm going to go into depth on this. He basically explains to us, and He says that if you look at the lilies of the field and how they dressed, Solomon in these best days wasn't arrayed as one of these. And He says, look at the birds in the sky, they don't gather, they don't have barns, yet they eat. He says, how much more for His children? The only thing is we are so disobedient, and then we ask God, why, but we don't look at ourselves and answer the question ourselves. And I'm a true testimony to that today. And God said to me, George, where are you in your life? How did you get here? You have a standard 7. Oh, but you took the initiative to read all your manuals, and you researched everything, and you understand what you do. So how come you never studied my word? How come you never studied the manuscript I gave you? Now it's the end, and you don't know what to do. And that was an eye-opener for me. And I must say, in the last 7-8 months, I've read this back to front probably 4 times, and I'm more focused on the New Testament, because Paul says that if you can prove that Jesus did not walk the earth, He did not die on the cross, and He was not resurrected, then your faith is in vain. And I can tell you that and this is why God told me to do this, because He gave me a very, very, very inquisitive mind, and He gave me a very rational mind. And I've read this and I've rationalized this, and I can tell you that there are things in this book that are profound that I want to share with you guys. So the first thing I want to mention is, before I'm going to go into all of the Bible studies, is I've got this question where people always ask, like, why is God so cruel? Why are we facing the lives we're facing? And I must be very honest, it's the one thing I always asked Him. I always said to Him, God, why do you always take the people away from me I love the most? Why am I always the one left behind? Why don't you rather just take me? Because I never asked to be here. I'm the result of 2 people having a good night one night, and here I am the result. Today I know why I'm here. I'm here to share my testimony. I'm here to open this book so that people can understand what it says. And I've honestly studied this, and if I say I've studied it, I'm not saying that I have the whole book in my mind. I'm not saying that I can comprehend the whole thing, but I do have the better gist of it. And basically, I can answer you one question. People ask why God is so cruel. He's not cruel. He's not cruel at all. He's not in control of the world. He's left it to Satan to run, and he's made it clear from the beginning. We just never read the book to know what is going on. So in Genesis, it starts off where he created Adam and Eve, and just a couple of things I want to point out, and I'm not going to go read the scriptures now because it's going to be too long. I just want to give you a brief idea quickly, something to think about. He created Adam and Eve, and he says that in him he created them. So meaning singular created plural. Now, if you look at this today, we can understand that because a man has a Y chromosome and a woman has an X chromosome. So if a man and a woman conceive a child, the woman adds the X chromosome always. The man adds either another X or a Y, and that determines the boy or the girl, male or female. Hence God said to Adam, or said in Genesis already, he created them in him. Meaning that he gave Adam the Y and the X chromosome, and he took the X chromosome out and he made Eve. Hence, Adam and Eve came to be. He actually made it clear from the beginning. We just never understood it. Something else I want to explain to you guys is, and I'm going to go into a little bit more depth about this, is we don't perceive the word correct in the sense that I give you one example where it talks about the 4 pillars of the earth, and everybody's looking for the pillars of the earth because it's round. So if you really look at it, because God doesn't see life the way we see it, he sees everything. He created this whole thing. He sees life for what it really is. And if you look at the 4 pillars of the earth, it's the crust, the mantle, the inner and outer core. There's your 4 pillars. We need to think 3-dimensional, and we need to think in God's view because he sees everything. He does not only see the 5% of science that we figured out so far, and I'm going to prove this to you with some scientific articles that I'm going to share with you. 5% of the known universe is matter. There's 95% that we don't know, and that is why I can say to you with all honesty today that there is a creator. The universe is operating on a universal code, which I will share in depth with you guys. But then he also said to Job that the earth hangs on nothing. So if you think of the science that existed back in the day, it's not possible for them to have known the 4 pillars of the earth. The earth hangs on nothing, revolves on nothing. It hangs on nothing. So that's just something to think about. And obviously with the fact that he says he made Adam and Eve and he made them in him. But not to go in too much detail of the physical structure of the universe and what we really are. And believe me, if God says he knows every hair on your head, he knows, because we're part of a quantum field. And I'm going to again scientifically prove a couple of things to you that are definitely going to make you think twice about reality and what it is and what God really is. And trust me when I say to you that he sees everything, he is in everything, he knows everything. And when he says that everything will come to light at the end of this, it's going to come to light. This whole thing is as if it's recorded, and not the physical part, but the conscious part, the abstract part, because your conscience is abstract, yet it manifests physically through your doings. And that's why he says if you control this, you control the flesh. And for too long in my life, I was controlled by the flesh and not by this, because this was in a very, very wrong place. But anyway, just to touch on God and his fairness and where we find ourselves today. And I've asked myself this question very often. Like I say, I had a horrific upbringing, and I begged God to take me away. I didn't want to be here. Now I'm asking, please God, keep me around. I need to spread the word. Let me get this to people as I can. And he's asked me to do this, so I am obeying. I'm definitely doing his will. This is what he's asked me to do, and I'm going to do it the best I can. So if you read Genesis, where Adam and Eve sinned, the first thing God said to them is, if you eat of the tree of knowledge, the forbidden fruit, you will surely die. Meaning that they were immortal, they were like God, they were going to live forever. And the thing is that people don't seem to realize that something profound happened when they ate that fruit. Whether it was a physical fruit, or it was something that they've done, or it was somewhere in the universe they explored that they weren't supposed to, that I cannot 100% explain to you. But what I can explain to you is you need to think about this. So just sit two people next to each other. Take an apple and bite it. I'm saying apple because I don't know what fruit it was. I'm just metaphorically explaining something now. And the next moment after you've bitten an apple, you look at the person next to you and you say, but you are naked now. You look different. It means that either the universe itself changed, or the being and what it was capable of doing changed. And which of the two it is, I cannot tell you, but I can almost explain it to you in a way where I can say, if God created a game called SimCity, like everybody knows SimCity, and SimCity it's quite a friendly game. I mean, you build a city and you run it as best you can. So if God created this and Satan decided, listen, I can do this better, I'm going to create a little virus in the game, God being the game player, he's not going to enjoy this very much because it's not what he's created. And to be honest, the life we're living today, if you really look at it, it's a horror scene. I mean, Jesus made it clear that we should be forgiving and we should be long-suffering and we should be gentle and we should be kind. And I'm going to go into depth on this. And you're going to know whether you run by the flesh or by the Spirit. And I urge you to seek the Spirit and not the flesh, because the flesh is what kept me down. And through God's grace, I made it up until this point, been run by the flesh. But I think that God came into my life at a very early stage, and He says that He doesn't give you a life you cannot handle. So I definitely think that at times I couldn't handle life. God was handling it for me. Hence I'm here, because like I said in my first video, I did die twice in my life, and I'm going to go into depth on those experiences because it's actually profound now that I think back on it. But nevertheless, so basically if you go read in Genesis 3, God has already declared the ending before it started, where he basically said that out of your children, my child will be born and he's going to trample your head, meaning that Jesus Christ was going to be born and he was going to live a sinless life, and out of Jesus' death and resurrection, new fruits will be brought up. And Jesus basically took the keys of life back from hell or Satan or wherever they are or is in this realm or reality. I think it's an interdimensional system. Hence, Elon Musk, the first thing he wants to ask AGI is what's outside of the simulation, meaning that he acknowledges that there's something bigger at play than just us. That's just something to think about. So basically, if you think about God and Satan causing the first sin, and the first sin was idolatry, and idolatry is actually it's the second commandment, if I'm not mistaken. I've got it written on actually at the back of my door, because I've got this whole thing that I'm busy with where I really want to obey God and His word. And another thing I can tell people is worship. The word worship means obedience. God loves obedience. If your life's not going according to plan, how obedient are you? Think about it. And then get obedient, and then put God to the trial, because He is a just God, He is a fair God, and He will act very fair at the end of all of this. So basically what He said to Satan in the beginning, the way I understand the Bible now, is if He had murdered Satan in the beginning and he threw him in prison, or He killed him, or He put him in hell, or whatever, he's God, He can do absolutely anything He wants to. If He did that, then every being would have lived in utter fear for this creator God who has no patience, who only seeks His will. But yet, what He did is, and I'm going to go into depth on this, basically, God incarnated in Jesus, took 5 steps down to earthly level to die a fleshly death, the most gruesome that could have happened at the time, to resurrect us beings and get His children back into heaven with Him. And at the same time, Satan took 5 steps up, where he's now exalted above God, where he's basically running the show, saying that I can do a better job than God, and God's letting him run the show. But He has created a salvation plan for all of us, and it's up to us whether or not we want to accept that salvation plan. So the next time you ask yourself, why everything is going wrong in life, why is God not doing anything about it? He has done something about it. He has sent Jesus. Jesus was God incarnated in the flesh, and he died a gruesome death for us. And the best I can explain this to you in a sensible manner, and we're going to go into depth on the science of this, and I'm going to prove this to you in a couple of videos, and if you don't believe me after that, then there's not much more I can do to convince you that God is real, Jesus lived, Jesus walked the earth, Jesus died for our sins, and there is a salvation plan for us. So basically, if you think about a projector, this life we're living, the subatomic, the atomic particle structure, so it's called the periodic table. It's what science is based on. It's what makes this video record. It's what makes the video send across the internet and makes all of you see this at the end of the day. So the periodic table works. It also makes an atomic bomb explode. And if you look at Einstein's equation, E equals mc squared, where he says matter and mass is the same thing, it's like water and ice. And he did it, he basically proved it by letting the atomic bomb explode. So it can be tested, it does work. So if you think about God as the projector and this atomic structure as the canvas, the white canvas that the image is portrayed upon, and the spirit is the light source portraying the image on the canvas. That is probably the best way I can explain reality to you. Then you'll understand that we only understand the atomic structure of the universe. We've now delved into the subatomic structure. We haven't cracked the whole thing yet. That's basically the energy field that creates the physical realm. So what Einstein said is energy and matter is the same thing manifested differently. So if you understand mathematics, an equation, you can flip the two around. It's the same thing. So the next time you think that God is an unjust God and that He's brought all of this into the world, no, He's not. At the end of this, it's going to be revealed how good and great God He really is, because He put Himself on the cross for each one of us as a salvation plan. But it is up for us to be obedient and to follow His word and to study this book. And hopefully by me going into depth on this book and what it really says, I will bring a couple of things to light. So if you will, this is going to be my second field of videos, is the Bible studies, and this is just an intro into what that is going to be about. So if you want to follow me, please like, share, subscribe. Thank you.